So the green flag lap coming to completion, just the last few cars working their way up towards Coppice Corner, but this is a crucial stage, of course. We've said all day long that the drivers, every time they go out there now, will be with challenging and changing conditions, and they're just making sure, once again, they've got plenty of warmth into their tyres. It's going to be the unknown for many of them in racing conditions down towards that first corner. So Rob Huff, the man towards the back of the field, former driver within the British Touring Car Championship. Well over 20 years ago, he made his debut within this championship. Ever since, he's spent the best part of over a decade away on international duties doing the World Touring Car Championship, where he's been very successful, and he's not going to rule out a return to Macau later on this season. But the field now starting to come back to the grids to form up for round one of this year's British Touring Car Championship, with Tom Ingram, the Hyundai, on pole position, last year's champion. Another man looking for a record-breaking fifth title. Two guys could do that this year. All depends how that season unfolds. That's Ash Sutton on that second spot of the grid. Colin Turkington, once again, back with another year with Team BMW, and he has his laser tools racing with MB Motorsport teammate alongside in the form of Jake Hill. You'll be able to spot him out very easily indeed. Next on row 3, Ronan Pearson, the youngster from Scotland, is there in the second of the Bristol Street Motors Hyundais, and then the first of our Toyota Gazoo racing machines. New car, new team for him this year. Andrew Watson starts on the outside of row 3. It feels like a lifetime, doesn't it, to get this season underway, but we are ready to go. The first round of the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship for 2024 revs into life. The red lights come on, and we go racing at Donington Park after a long hold on the lights, and 18 laps of racing gets underway. Good start, as always, from the rear-wheel drive BMW. Sees Colin Turkington shoot into the lead of the race, although he's going to have to work hard to go round the outside of Tom Ingram into the first corner. Tom's going to hang tough on the inside, and he'll just about keep the BMW at bay, but Jake Hill has made a good start as well, as he now works his way alongside his teammate Colin Turkington all the way down through Hollywood for the first time of asking, and it's going to be Jake Hill who in fact goes through to second place. So Colin Turkington quick off the line. We've got one sideways in the background. It's one of the Napa Racing Ford Focuses, which makes heavy contact with the tyre bundle on the inside of the Craner curves. That was Jamie Osborne, who went off at quite a high speed there, so I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a safety car. But for now, it is Tom Ingram who leads the field up towards McLean's for the first time of asking. Jake Hill to second, and it's the Napa Racing Ford Focus which has slotted itself into third place. But no surprise, the safety car, which was waiting at the entrance to the pit lane, has now been deployed onto the circuit with that heavy impact. As we said, it was into the tyres, so as always, the impact was taken by the tyres, but that would have still been a heavy one inside the car for Sam Osborne, unfortunately, who was coming from what was 11th on the grid. Good to say, Sam is out in the car. Not the way he would have wanted to start his 2024 campaign, but he's good. He puts his hands up to the crowd, who give them a cheer to say that he's all good and safe out of the car. But
wow, that was, no retardation on that very, very soggy grass. We've been talking about it all day. Poor old Pete Osborne, the team owner, and of course father of Sam, trudges his way into the garage, having seen the same pictures. But what a reassuring thing to see Sam get out and wave to the crowd.
Certainly was, yeah, and this is what we spoke about, just having a look at the replay on the big screens, and it was a bit of a wobble from one of the Vauxhall Astras, which just caught the right rear of Jamie Osborne. So, again, it looks like a racing incident from the pictures we've seen, but with these conditions, it's so hard to keep the cars under control. And
it shows how strong they are, Matt, doesn't it?
Does.
Goodness me.
But the tyres doing their impact in terms of kind of taking the abrasion away and the impact as well. So, yeah, I think the car should be okay. The right-hand side might be a little bit dented, but with the tyres there now strewn all over the edge of the grass, they'll have to be put back into place, which will not take the work of a moment.
I've got interesting news for you. I'm not going to say good news, bad news, or indifferent news, but unfortunately, it has just started to rain again.
Okay, well, all drivers are on wet tyres, which is good, isn't it? So, but yeah, they're going to have to contend with more rain now starting to fall on the circuit. So we thought we were done with it around about 1 o'clock, but still lurks in the air for the time being. But under this safety car, Tom Ingram has managed to hold on to the lead of the race after starting on pole position, but with those quick starting rear-wheel drive BMWs, both Colin Turkington and Jake Hill were quick to get through that gap. And if you leave the gap, they don't need no invitation to go through, do they? And both Jake and Colin squeezed past Ash Sutton, and then it was a run down through Hollywood where we saw the two teammates side by side in the the form of Jake Hill and Colin Turkington. Jake Hill was the bravest of the two, I think it's fair to say, and just came out on top. But with that side-by-side action, Ash Sutton was also able to squeeze his way through. I'm not too sure he got the job done, possibly through the old hairpin, but Ash did get past Colin Turkington up into third. So they run third and fourth for now. Fifth place then for Ronan Pearson, and Andrew Watson has kept his sixth place at the end of that second lap. Josh Cook then sits in seventh. Aaron Taylor-Smith, 9th place still for Daryl DeLeon, and 10th place at the minute for Mikey Dable. So that's how the order looks. We're now getting a look at Sam Osborne's car, and yeah, it's quite dented on the right front, and yeah, as we said, quite a bit of a dent in the rear door as well. But Napa Racing and the team will go straight to work on that and try and get it out for race number 2, which might be a quick turnaround today compared to what we initially had. So they're going to hope that car gets back as soon as possible. So if they can get it to the outside of the circuit and get it on a flatbed, then that would be very beneficial for the team to crack on with that one. So Sam Osborne is the only one we've lost so far. Everyone continues to run. And just a word on the hybrid as well. We've got the full hybrid for all drivers for this race, because with a brand new season, no qualifying or championship points to determine how much hybrid you get. So they'll get the full deployment, and for this year they get a 50% boost, which is quite significant, as the drivers were saying. So a little bit more power to use to their advantage, and all of them at the minute looks like they still have 12 laps usage of the hybrid. So that's what we have on our screen. The way you can detect when drivers are on hybrid, just if you're out there watching as a spectator, the side panel of the car where the driver's name is, you'll see a light panel. That light, if it goes blue, means the drivers are using the hybrid energy management system. If it goes white, it means they have run out of their hybrid on that particular lap, and if it goes red, it means they have run out of that hybrid completely for the whole session. So they are the 3 colours you'll be looking for. If the panel is completely blank, then they are not doing any of those. But the blue one is the more intriguing one. That shows when the driver is on. They can use it as an attacking or a defending mechanism, whichever they feel is necessary, whether it be out in the corner to try and pull away or attack, and vice versa. They can use that to defend as well if they want to try and pull away from the car behind. So work now going on to sort out the tyres down there at the Grainer Curves. We do need the telehandler once again today. It looks quite good on that grass, doesn't it? It doesn't seem like it's making any marks or indents, which is handy, but it just shows, doesn't it, the track conditions might be improving, but when cars do run off the circuit onto the grass, that is when you have no control whatsoever. So all important that these things are taken into consideration when you're trying to get a meeting back underway due to poor weather. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit of work to get those tyres into place. We will add safety car laps on, because we are allowed to add a maximum of 3 under a safety car. After that, the laps will then start to count towards the race distance. So at the minute, we're about to complete our second one behind the safety car, and then the next one round we'll add on. Then after that, they will start to count. So it's going to be a maximum of 21 laps that we are looking to restart under. But now just riding on board with Tom Ingram, as you can see around the big screens around the circuit, that he's trying to keep behind Colin Turkington. We can see Mark Blundell down there behind the team of MB Motorsport. Lots of supporters for Jake as well, which is nice to see. Came so close to the championship last year as he ran the likes of Ash Sutton and Tom Ingram very close to the final meeting at Brands Hatch, but unfortunately just wasn't going to go his way at the final meeting for what was his home event down there in Kent. But once again, he'll have 2 visits to the Kent circuit this year, one on the Indy version and one on the Grand Prix circuit towards the end of the year. So this is good for the drivers, just to again customise themselves to the conditions, make sure that everything is good, and make sure that the tyres can continue to come up to temperature. Just wondered if we can very quickly bring in Ben Collins, who has joined us back up in the box. We'll just bring him on quickly whilst we've got this safety car, just to get his thoughts on the driving conditions, and also what are you doing in these conditions, Ben? Of course, we know it's wet out there. We know it's a little bit tricky as well. But under safety car conditions, does kind of the weaving work? Does it help kind of keep your tyre temperature?
Yeah, in these cars, you've got to keep the temperature in the tyre for them to work. So quite often with wets in times past, you actually were quite grateful to cool them off, but they've only just got going, and so they need to try and get that temperature in to get them to stick. The conditions look great. I mean, I thought they looked great all morning, and we've been very patiently waiting for this race and really excited it's underway. So that bit of that puddle down at Craner seems to have abated, and the racing's really, it's just great to see the guys diving in. I think it was super tight off that start. I thought Tom was under a lot of pressure and held it really well.
He did, didn't he? When you've got rear-wheel drive BMWs coming past you, you can't really defend, can you? You just got to make sure you make your car as wide as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I love watching the race starts and seeing who moves first. I think Tom was literally, it was a fraction off the mark behind the others around him, so he was going to get swarmed. But I thought I was pretty impressed and surprised he actually came out the first corner in the lead. Really strong charge from Colin, wheel to wheel, but they gave each other the racing room and the respect. So I mean, everyone knows this is an extremely tight competition, and I think the respect between the drivers is key, because they know that's the best way to up their chances of actually finishing the races.
Indeed, yeah. Just watching a replay of Chris Smiley on board. Just saw the exit there for Sam Osborne, unfortunately. But looking at his first lap, he just got past on the run through Starkey's as well. Replay on board with Ash Sutton. So interesting how he actually got back up into third place, because the two BMWs went past. Colin went to the outside. Jake tried to get to the inside, but didn't really fancy the chances there. Tom made that Hyundai very wide indeed and just managed to keep Colin Turkington at bay. That then slowed him down, which allowed Jake Hill to his inside. He got a great run through Hollywood, and then by the time they got down to the first part of the Craner curves, Ash Sutton was lurking as well. Didn't manage to get through there, so did it come at the old hairpin? Ash went for a wider line into the corner. Of course, tighter means just lower off the exit. A little bit of a bump for Ash Sutton, and it was on the exit of the old hairpin as they turned through the left-hander, bravely side by side. Ash Sutton did manage to get through, but good driving there. They gave each other respect, didn't they? It's
a lovely move. It's amazing, for people, those who aren't sort of expert on touring cars, and it's you're always remembering the BMWs at the rear-wheel drive. The weight shifts to the rear. They get better traction off the line, especially in rainy conditions. So they are quite hard to stop off the line. But it's great to see the battles that you can have with two very different cars with completely different driving dynamics.
So coming up to the restart shortly, what do you reckon the plan for Tom Ingram would to be? Kind of hold them back or go as early as you can?
I think it'd be interesting to see. I mean, he seems to have the pace and the confidence. I was chatting to him earlier, and he has got, he's really dialed into this place. I think from the warm-up they had before, I think he's got a good feeling for what the car's like underneath him in the rain. So my expectation is he's going to give it everything on the opening lap to pull some space. And with a rolling start, the BMWs don't have that advantage. So it's going to be a lot of it is tactics. And Sutton's got it all to do to try and get up into a position where he can challenge, because for sure the front three can definitely be duking out for the win.
Yeah, so luckily he's got an effective rolling start from behind the safety car, so he won't have the effect of the BMWs having that advantage, so that will be a little bit nicer for him once he gets this race back underway. But still under safety car as it stands, just waiting for the recovery of Sam Osborne's car, and of course for the tyres to be put back into position as well. Just riding on board here with what possibly could be someone behind Dan Rowbottom, so that might have been actually Rob Huff. Let's have a look as they turn through in towards the old hairpin there again, just watching the replay. But again, in these tricky conditions, it's good that it has dried down. But again, if there are bits of water that are offline that you don't really want to go through, it does become a one-track circuit. But brave people around the outside. But again, that's what you will find. We've seen many wet races, and people who may not be familiar with racing that expertly, on the outside, normally, when we've had wet conditions, you do find quite a bit of grip, don't you? Yeah, that's a great thing about racing in the rain. If you know what to do, where to put the car, you can find grip in places where others can't. Round the outside, it just makes the racing that much more spectacular. So I think we're in for quite a treat. And you're going to see the seasoned drivers making the most of that and working their way to the front. So as soon as you get this barrier fixed, the guys there working as hard as they can, then hopefully we can get back at it. But I think there is a drying line. You can sort of see it down the main straight here and the run to the first corner. So although you can find grip on the outside and certainly finding the inside under braking to try and find advantage, I think we will end up with a bit of a racing line that people won't want to deviate too much from. Yep, indeed. So they're still working our way around behind safety car. We've still got a few more tyres to be put back into place. Once again on the big screen, Jake's brand new baby boy watching on there. Adorable, isn't he? So he'll be, I'm sure, aspiring to be like his dad in years to come. But for now, a brand new child for Jake to worry about as he sits now in second position down through the old hairpin. Still offline there, still a wet patch for the driver to contend with. But we talked about Ben later on today. With the conditions, if they stay like they are, it won't take long for this circuit to dry up. So already, I know we've had a very wet morning. Drivers will be thinking, right, these conditions are not too bad. We might be thinking about slicks later on.
I'd be amazed if it gets to slicks.
Okay.
It could be someone very brave. You won't want to stop, and I think they're going to flog what they've got to the end. So they definitely want to keep. They're looking keen to get the tyres activated now. Later in the race, I think you'll start seeing people drift offline to cool the tyres on the wetter parts of the circuit. So you use the wetter bit to sort of like cool the temperature on the tyres, so you get more out of them. But yeah, I think slicks is ambitious, but maybe race 2.
Yeah, we'll hope for slicks. Some dry weather will be very nice indeed. Ben, thanks for now. We'll let you get back to the watching the action, because it's thrilling as always, and it won't be too much longer, I'm sure, until the race gets back underway. So
Loving
thanks,
it.
Ben. Here this weekend with Bristol Street Motors, as we said. So thanks very much to Ben Collins under this safety car for the time being. And as I said, it's not the work of a moment to get these tyres back in place. And the other thing is, once the tyres are back there, as we saw earlier on, you need to get the conveyor across those tyres as well. So it does take quite a while. So unfortunately, although we have got this race underway, we are now just sitting behind the safety car with what's going to be 10 laps to go in this 18-lap race. We will then add the 3 laps to it as well. So we'll be up to a maximum, as we said, of 21 laps. But at the minute, Tom Ingram looking good, and if he can get this race done, it could be a nice accolade to add to a list, which will see him move up in the all-time winners list if he stays where he is. But we know we've got some hard charges coming from behind. Rob Huff, at the end of that first lap, moved ahead of Scott Sumpton and also ahead of Nick Halstead. So he's gained 2, but then, of course, he's gained a 3rd because Sam Osborne is now a retiree from this race. So Huff already up into 17th place. Heard David Addison say earlier on, Huffy for the top 6, maybe a podium. Well, we'll see if that stands true in the closing stages. But, of course, he's not going to be aided with this safety car because he's losing laps where he could be possibly overtaking cars ahead of him. So Huffy's got some work to do, down in 17th position, just behind 2 other hard chargers, Dan Camish and Dan Rowbottom, both of those for Napa Racing and the Ford Focus team. So they sit in 16th and 15th place. Tom Chilton has lost 1 from where he started. So Tom's now down to 14th position in car number 3. And then we have the first of our Restart Racing Cupras, which sits there in the hands of Chris Smiley in currently 13th position. So, yeah, a few drivers have made places, but on that first half a lap, there wasn't really much time to get anything done unless you got the moves completed through Redgate or down through the Craner Curves. They were the only places, really, where you could make some moves. But Tom Ingram, at the minute, has scored a point, because if you lead a lap within the British Touring Car Championship, you do get a point. The fastest lap also gives you a point as well. And if you win the race, you get the 20 points which go with it as well. So that is all looking good for now for Tom Ingram. But as we said, when we get back underway, he's going to have some quick drivers behind him to try and keep at bay. Up through the other prone spot so far today, which has caused issues. But it looks like Starkey's is now faring much better. It's just, as we said, off the track is where the problems have started to occur. It's looking a bit black over towards McLean's as well, but luckily the weather is heading that way rather than coming from that way. So hopefully the black skies are disappearing away from the circuit, with some more blue skies now starting to appear over towards Redgate, which is good. That will aid the track temperature to rise, which is not just good for drying, but also good for the tyre temperature as well for the drivers, which will give them a little bit more grip around the circuit. So down the back straight we head once again, still under safety car as we're about to start lap number 11 of this one. Tom Ingram currently has the fastest lap of the race, but it is not indicative of what they will be doing, because that was at the end of the first lap where the safety car was deployed. So a 35.0 lap record here at Donington Park is a 109.211, which was set by Jake Hill. So that's what they may be aiming for by the end of the day. As we said, not quite going to be getting there in this race. Race 2 potentially, but hopefully if things stay dry, then race 3 could definitely be some quick times coming through.
Yeah, full sunshine in pit lane now.
Good
what
stuff.
A strange day.
And you know what? There's almost a bit of dry tarmac down towards Redgate.
It's like Mickey Butler was saying. He knows his stuff, does Mickey? And this breeze that we've got, and now the slightly warmer temperatures, now the sunshine is glinting through. What a welcome sight that is.
Lovely. It cheers us all up, doesn't it? A bit of sunshine.
People are pointing up into the sky. Like, what is this strange orange circular thing?
Yeah, as Tom said, I've never seen this since Christmas.
I know, it's quite weird. Some of the TOCA officials just walking down the pit lane pointing just in case I'd missed it. No, I saw it.
So weather is looking improving. And to be fair, up to this week, it has been kind of cold. But when that sun does peer out, it does feel quite strong, doesn't it? This time of year, it does get stronger. And
it is. We're nearly in
nice.
May.
I know.
May
Keep reminding
Wednesday.
us.
I know.
That's why we're expecting nice weather, because we're almost in May. But hasn't appeared, has it?
Not as yet.
No. So, right, what's happening down at the Craner Curves? Can't quite see the camera down there. So we'll rely on our pictures from ITV, and hopefully it won't be too much longer. I know there's quite a big task to do to get those tyres back in place. So again, the circuit staff and all the recovery team working to make sure they can do that as efficiently as possible. But this will be just frustrating for, as we said, many drivers who want to get on with the job in hand, want to try and make a bit of progress, want to try and preempt what's going to go on for the rest of the weekend. Because as we mentioned yesterday in qualifying, if your day doesn't go well in qualifying, then that puts your kind of whole weekend on the back foot. And what drivers then tend to do in the British Touring Car Championship is work backwards, because if you have a bad start to race 1, you then kind of think, well, if I can make race 3 a good race, especially with the reverse grid at the end of race 2, that might be my aim for the weekend. So all the drivers just trying to move forward to get a good position for race number 2, which then hopefully will give them the chance to make up more positions in race 2 and to get the reversal for race number 3. So that's what they'll be aiming for. But under safety car, as we said, you cannot overtake. So laps just starting to disappear. At the end of this one, it'll be 6 to go, but we will add on the 3, so it will be effectively 9 laps remaining. So let's see if we are going to have a safety car in any time soon. We have got the tyres repaired by the looks of it, which is good. But we have got the medical team down there, and the reason for that, I think one of the circuit staff has maybe just had a slight fall in those very, very muddy conditions. So we can't go back to racing just yet, due to the medical team still being on the circuit to treat one of our members of staff. So for the time being, we are still going to remain under these safety car conditions. As Ingram continues to lead the field through, they can't, of course, use a hybrid. There's no need to use a hybrid on the safety car, so they still all have the full deployment of 12 laps. And under this safety car, actually, the times are continuing to get quicker. So Scott Stringfellow at the helm of the field in the safety car, doing what he needs to do, which is keeping the field at bay, but also doing some quick laps to make sure that the drivers can keep the tyre in the tyres, or the temperature in the tyres, sorry. So all these laps are getting quicker and quicker. And it's now actually Scott Stumpton who has picked up the quickest lap of the race on a 1:31.016. So, again, not going to be the quickest lap if we go back to green flag racing, but he is currently the quickest at the back of the field. So, once again, they head their way down through the old hairpin. And work their way back up the other side, and still getting words that we are not going to be back underway just yet. So I wonder what the conversations will be for Tom Ingram to the team, just being fed all the information he needs, what the situation is on circuit. Of course, he'll be able to see what's happening down there at the Craner Curves as he drives past every time. But Tom Ingram, as we said, probably the only man who, a racer wants to go racing, of course they do, but when you're at the head of the field, you'll be more than happy to pick up a win. But you want to work for that win more than likely. And Tom Ingram, the 2022 champion, just at the minute waiting to get himself back underway. And as we said, whether he goes at the first initial point he can, or if he backs them up all the way through the Robert chicane, we won't yet know. But Tom Ingram has done many race restarts at the head of the field, so he'll know exactly what he wants to do. And he'll want to keep, as we said, the likes of Jake Hill, Ash Sutton, Colin Turkington, and his teammate Ronan Pearson back behind him. And to be fair, Ronan might be a little bit of a help here. If Ronan can put the pressure onto those BMWs, and then that might just allow Tom Ingram in the lead of the race to put away. So Ronan will do as best as he can to be a team player for the Bristol Street Motors team. And already, actually, we can see one of the drivers there just going offline, which would have been, it's one of them further back. I think that was the first of the Napa Racing machines outside the top 10, which is Dan Camish. So already, Dan Camish looking for the wet part of the track. I know it's a bit weird that we're saying that, but he is looking for the more damp surface out there. So Dan Camish trying to keep those tyres as cool as possible, because when they do start to erode, they almost turn like jelly, don't they? And they just kind of disappear off the edge of a cliff. So Dan Camish making sure he keeps them as cool as possible. Behind him, he's got his teammate for help as well. So if those two can work together, they might be able to work their way through the field nicely. If one opens the door, then Dan Rowbottom might be able to step through at the same time, but it'll be Dan Camish who'll be the man to prise that door open and raced hard to try and work himself somewhere with inside the top 10. As we said, back planning for the reverse grid race number 3. And if he can find himself somewhere inside the top rungs of the top 12, then that'll be good news for him. But still for now, the safety car light is on as we come up to the completion of lap number 14. So if we do get back underway, it's going to be with just a handful of laps remaining in this one, unfortunately. The lap count now has ticked over to 21 because we have done the added 3 laps. All of those now added on to the race distance. Tom Ingram again that time through. Personal best lap of the race, 1:33.6. So again, Scott Stringfellow making sure he keeps the pace up in that Porsche safety car. He's got Kieran Salmons alongside once again this year as his safety car observer. He'll be the man feeding all the information back to race control, and Kieran will be the man to tell Scott Stringfellow what is going on. I think the ambulance over there to treat the member of staff who had a slight fall has now disappeared, and it looks like the safety car lights have been switched off. So we are going to get back to racing this time round. As we said, new race distance of 21 laps. No lights back on by the looks of it. So briefly off, but I don't think they're quite clear of the scene. But now they're off. So they went off, came back on and went off again. So I think they're off anyway. It's quite just yeah, they are off this time. So now Tom Ingram has a chance
Definitely
to back things
off,
up. They are off, aren't they? Just playing tricks on us there, but
maybe Scotty's got cold fingers and he slipped on the button.
Could be true, actually, today. Wouldn't put it past these weather conditions. So Tom Ingram, he's going to back the pack up by the looks of it. And when he sees that safety car disappear through Roberts, he will then be able to go because he'll know he'll be into the pit lane. He'll know then he'll have the gap to go once again back to green flag racing. In fact, Scott Stringfellow's already back with us, and Tom Ingram's just working his way halfway down the back straight, and now he has gone by the looks of it. So he accelerates away from Jake Hill, and it's a nice gap there, actually. 2 or 3 car lengths on the approach to Roberts. Let's see what Jake Hill can do about that as they exit the final chicane. And we do go back to green flag racing here at Donington Park for round 1 of the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship. Ingram leads them down towards the first corner. I think Jake Hill is the one probably under pressure more than anyone in that second place, but Ash Sutton not looking to dart to the inside to take the place away. Ronan Pearson further back looking a little bit racy as well there on the rear of Colin Turkington. So Ronan's hot off the mark, just like his teammate Tom Ingram in the lead of the race as they work their way through the left-hander of the old hairpin. Craner curves in towards the old hairpin, the right-hander now. And hopefully they'll get through safely on this occasion. Yep, all well behaved. And Josh Cook makes a move on Andrew Watson. Lovely move from Josh Cook there. He felt confident to go down the inside line and timed that absolutely beautifully to see him now inside the top 6. Further back, Dan Rowbottom is under pressure from Rob Huff. So now that he's got green flag laps ahead of him, he'll want to try and make as much progress as he possibly can. But it's still Tom Ingram from Jake Hill. 3rd place for Ash Sutton and 4th place for Colin Turkington. Good battle going on just behind Daryl DeLeon, trying to hold off Mikey Doble, who has now Adam Morgan to the inside. And that rear-wheel drive BMW gets great acceleration off the corners. He's not just going to take 1 place away, he'll take 2 because Adam Morgan has now made his way past Daryl DeLeon, and that will see him up inside the top 10 for the first time in this race. Unfortunately for Daryl DeLeon in car number 18, he cannot keep the Vauxhall Astra of Mikey Doble at bay. So that car also goes through across the line. And even further back, Dan Rowbottom has got Tom Chilton for company because Tom Chilton's losing a few more places on this lap. So not liking these conditions from what we can see at the minute. Both of them were on the hybrid down towards the first corner. And Chilton now is just in front of what's going to be Dan Rowbottom. I think Dan's just fallen back behind Tom Chilton there. So those two squabbling over the lower rungs of the places within this first race. But Tom Ingram, gap at the end of that restarted lap, just shy of a second. And on the first flying lap, he did the new quickest lap, 1:15.177. Meantime, on your screens, you'll be able to see that Rob Huff is making places now round the outside of Chris Smiley. So that's another one ticked off. Who else is going to try and make a move on Chris Smiley? That is the car of Tom Chilton, but cannot find a way through. Rob Huff now has a little bit of a gap to try and close down on the car of Dan Camish. And further up the road, Aaron Taylor-Smith is now in a good battle here with the Toyota of Andrew Watson. So another one who was inside the top 6, then down to 7th after Josh Cook went through. And now that Aaron Taylor-Smith has gone through, Andrew Watson has lost a further position. And before too much longer, he's got the quick pedaling Adam Morgan in car number 33 that is working his way very nicely inside the top 8. He's not quite there on Andrew Watson. He uses the hybrid to try and defend in towards Redgate corner, and Adam Morgan at the very last minute sends one to the inside in towards Redgate, but that's kind of a half move which doesn't come off. Although if he gets a nice exit from the corner, it might just about work on the way down through the right-hander of Hollywood. We just lose those pictures slightly because we're focusing on Darryl de Leon, who is massively now under pressure from Rob Half. So this little scenario we had with Rob trying to make up places, he's definitely doing his job. Former World Touring Car Champion just gets run into down towards the old hairpin. His contact from the Vauxhall Astra of Mikey Doble. And again, it was just very late on the brakes for Mikey. Just missed his braking point, but it has meant that Rob Half, after great progress through the field, goes from what now is 12th position all the way to the back of the field. So what a shame for Rob Half, who was making up tremendous places in this one, but now finds himself at the rear of the field with what's going to be 3 laps to go. Meantime, it's side by side for second place because Jake Hill and Ash Sutton run in towards the Robert Chicane, and it will be Ash Sutton, last year's champion, who just about squeezes his way through. So now he's got one more target, has Ash Sutton, and that's going to be Tom Ingram, but the gap between the two of them is 1.8 seconds, and they have realistically the same amount of hybrid left in this race as well. So if Tom's going to go onto it, then Ash Sutton will go on it at the same time. So the gap may not come down, but he's got past Jake Hill. Replay of Mikey Doble and Rob Huff. They just caught the bit of wet weather. I think Rowbottom may have just caught the back of Mikey Doble, so I might have done Mikey a bit of injustice there. I think he was just caught in the rear as well, so a knock-on effect.
He was pushed in, yeah.
He was, wasn't he? So a knock-on to a knock-on, which then caught out Rob Huff. He couldn't quite control the car, understandably, as he went sideways in towards the old hairpin. But he did come through the other side, and there's the kind of remnants of the man who started the push-in, because Dan Rowbottom has now the left-hand side of his Ford Focus, which is just flailing at the bonnet.
It wasn't me, honest. Let's look at the evidence.
Exactly. Can't get out of that one, unfortunately, Rowbottom, but he continues on. He's ahead of Darryl de Leon for the time being. That will see him now up into 12th position. So some of the tyres now just starting to struggle by the looks of it. Andrew Watson is one of those who is, again, losing places because Dan Camish is working his way through. So this would see him up into 9th position. And Dan Rowbottom, no surprise, is now receiving the black and orange mechanical flag, which means there is something wrong with your vehicle. You need to head into the pit lane for the team to sort that out before the scrutineers will let you back onto the circuit. So Rowbottom will receive that. And in fact, the team have already told him on the radio. So Rowbottom into the pit lane. That's his race ruined. It was a race ruin for Mikey Doble as well, effectively, and also for Rob Half, who continues to be at the back as he crosses the line down in 19th position. That becomes 18th as he works his way down towards Redgate. More side-by-side action. You wouldn't expect anything less within the British Touring Car Championship, and it's Darryl de Leon trying to get past by his supporter from yesterday, which is Tom Chilton. So when they're on track, they are rivals. When Darryl's doing well and Tom Chilton's not in a session, he cheers him on. So Darryl doing a great job to defend there, and bear in mind, this is Darryl's 16th race within the British Touring Car Championship. It's a fair few more for Tom Chilton, who's been around now for many, many years, and has found his new home at Bristol Street Motors with the Hyundai, but putting up a lot of pressure on Darryl de Leon. But he's got to be careful because he's under pressure as well from the recovering Mikey Doble. So 3-1 as they turn away in towards Coppice Corner. This is all over what's going to be 12th position at the minute. And it's actually Darryl de Leon who got the place back away from Tom Chilton at the start of this lap. But Tom gets a better run through the corner, so it's number 3 Hyundai which goes through. Mikey Doble tries to get himself onto terms as well. He goes back to the outside line, tries to switch around Darryl de Leon, but it is Tom Chilton who's found his way through. So now moves up into what's going to be 12th place once again. Darryl de Leon for 13th, and Mikey Doble there in 14th position as race leader Tom Ingram has gone through to start the last lap of this first race of the weekend for the British Touring Car Championship, and it looks pretty safe for Tom. If he keeps all 4 wheels on the black stuff and continues on this lap, then the gap he has, 2.6 seconds, will be a very comfortable one at the end of the checkered flag. But there's still more dicing going on further back. Andrew Watson hasn't had it easy in this race, has he? Because now he's got Aidan Moffat, a man who's made good progress through the field. Aidan started down the order and now looks to find himself up nearer to the top 10. 18th on the grid was Aidan, and Rowbottom's work that the team didn't really last, did it? Because he's now got a bonnet which has completely covered the front windscreen, so it will be him into the pit lane and effectively a non-finisher. But for Tom Ingram, he works his way round the final corner, and this is going to be his 80th podium in the British Touring Car Championship, and he equals the overall all-time winners, now up to 12th, joins that of Gordon Spice. But Tom Ingram takes the first win of the 2024 Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship. Second goes the way to last year's champion, which is Ash Sutton. Jake Hill comes through in third place, and the Dyson continues all the way to the line because Moffat is not quite done. He's just managed to pass that of Andrew Watson at the line, which means Moffat gets into the top 10 from 18th on the grid, and it looks like that Daryl de Leon did in fact lose out to Mikey Doble on that last lap as well, so Daryl drops into 14th place. But show your appreciation for Tom Ingram. We've waited a long time to have a checker flag today, but we do finally get one, and it goes that to of Tom Ingram. Wins in the end by just under 2.5 seconds, with last year's champion Ash Sutton in second, as we said, and Jake Hill will make up the podium in the first race of the 2024 season. So well done to him. Colin Turkington then comes through next in fourth place. Ronan Pearson made up a place in that race to go fifth, ahead of Josh Cook, who also made good progress through the order. The first of our independent time there was Aaron Taylor-Smith in 7th place. 8th place goes the way of Adam Morgan, another man who jumped himself up the order. So Adam will be looking forward, I'm sure, to race number 2. 50% positions he made from 16th up to 8th place for the third of our BMW drivers. 9th place for Dan Camish, another one from the rear of the field. So what looked to be a bit of a bleak qualifying day for Dan Camish. All of a sudden, things not looking too bad inside the top 10. You'd have hoped, of course, to be racing towards the front, but after the dismay of qualifying, 9th place will do very nicely for the Napa Racing Ford Focus, and for 10th place it's going to be that of Aidan Moffat. The final runners were Andrew Watson in 11th, 12th place for Tom Chilton, 13th for Mikey Dable, 14th for Daryl de Leon, 15th the first of our Restart Racing Coopers of Chris Smiley, and then Nick Housted, Scott Sumpton, and Rob Huff gets to the finish in 18th place. So he did make up places. He got 2 in the end, but I reckon he would have been in the top 10 definitely. So Rob Huff will have to do pretty much the same thing that he's done in race number 1, but hope not to get hit and hope that maybe the conditions are dry to enable him to go a little bit quicker. Dan Rowbottom and Sam Osborne, 2 of the Napa Racing Ford Focuses, are non-finishers, unfortunately. So we had 18 finishers in the end, and after a lengthy safety car period, it was Tom Ingram who came through as the first victor of this year as he makes his way to you, Al.
And did you see the cockpit shots on his slowdown lap? He was absolutely elated. You know, drivers, despite what they may achieve, like winning championships, winning the BTCC, every race win means so much to them, and you could see it. Tom was celebrating in the car, just beside himself, that he could he still is. He's in Parc Fermé now, he still is. And all of the work that goes on in the closed season, all the work that leads up to the first race of the year, it all pays off when you take the top step of the podium for the opening race of the year. Here comes Ash Sutton. He tried, but could not catch, and he comes up towards the number 2 board down here in Parc Fermé, and Jake Hill is just going through his technical checks in the technical check area at entry end of pit lane. Tom Ingram out of the car, punches the air, absolutely delighted, hugs the ITV television lens, gets a hug from Tom and Sandra from the team, from Chris, his long-term sponsor in his racing career, and I reckon I'm going to be able to go in and have a chat to Tom, because I think ITV are in a break, and that means I might well get the nod from ITV, and there we go, his dad Bruce is there to congratulate him as well, and his engineer, and super pictures for ITV, but they're not live at the moment, so that means that once Tom has given Dad Bruce his harness and gets his helmet off, I'm going to go in and have a chat to him. He's getting congratulated by everyone down in Parc Fermé, and I'm loving these scenes. It's still as sweet when you win a race. You're absolutely delighted with this, Tom.
I am. I'm absolutely over the moon. I really am. I think more than anything else, it's just a case of when we've had a week, a year of trying to play catch up, and trying just to pick away work out what was good with ours, see what was good with other people's, and just slowly start to nibble away at it. It's really, really satisfying. And to have been able to start it really well, to have obviously been able to get pole yesterday and convert it into a win in the first race was fantastic. Obviously a fairly disconnected race. Obviously a big crash at the start, and hopefully the marshal who was stuck down there is okay and isn't too bad at all. So my thoughts go to him.